Good evening. My name is Matt Metter, and tonight we're going to be investigating the successive approximation model. Prior to beginning the actual dissection of the model in general, what I want to go over a little bit is the two major models in instructional design that have really kind of come to a forefront and are being investigated amongst instructional designers. One of those is going to be the Addie model, which has been a foundational instructional design model for quite some time. And then, of course, now we have the successive approximation model, which is often referred to as the SAM. So there had to be some sort of causation for SAM to occur, and that causation was, in fact, the Addie model. When instructional design started to leave educational technology and the field tried to basically transformed into its own entity, you had all these models, and of course you had theorists and you had individuals that were putting things together on the way learning environments worked, how to get a project done, how to get X, Y, and Z done, so on and so forth. And so this was some causation for SAM, because as e-learning started to develop and really started to blossom into that 21st century atmosphere, Addie just wasn't the design that was beneficial for e-learning. So the successive approximation model was drawn up by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Michael Allen. Now, Addie, before we go too deep into this, Addie is in fact it's got some meaning behind it, and the very first block to Addie is, of course, is analyze, and then of course followed by design, and then develop, implement, and evaluate. So for years, Addie was the fundamental instructional design piece. Moving forward with SAM, there are some criteria with SAM. I'm going to discuss 4 different criterion, and this criterion can be located on Dr. Michael Allen's or through Dr. Michael Allen's company at alleninteractions.com. So the very first 2 things are, in fact, that as far as criteria is concerned, SAM has got to be iterative and it's got to be collaborative. Moving on into the bubble, it's got to be effective. And then, of course, last, it's got to be manageable. As far as iterative is concerned, or iterative is concerned, what I'd like to focus on is the fact that it is repetition. Now, there is going to be another slide that's going to give you a little more information, but it's the repetition that I want to focus on. Notice here in this particular slide, you'll have one block followed by another block, followed by another block. Think of these as stepping stones. You can go up or you can go down, but it's repetition. These slides were used by permission of alleninteractions.com. And then, of course, this slide is simply going back over what the iterative criterion is. And again, it is repetition, early and continuously. That second criterion is, in fact, this has got to be collaborative. SAM is collaborative. You may be an independent instructional designer. However, you will be collaborating with someone. There is some sort of teamwork that's involved with this, whether it's subject matter experts or whether it's with another instructional designer or a team of instructional designers. It is a collaborative model. And then, of course, when we talk about collaboration, there are some things that build into that collaboration. One, you're going to have ideas. The next is going to be opinions, experiences, and the knowledge. And all of this, guess what? It occurs from other people. So, yes, that is how things get done. It's through that collaboration. Speaking with some experts on the use of the successive approximation model, they all agree that it is the collaboration that is the fundamental piece. And that's with working with other instructional designers, or in fact working with subject matter experts, stakeholders, or figureheads that are involved in the project. I've already mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it again. The third criterion is, in fact, it's got to be effective. This model should produce the best learning experiences. And that's even within those constraints. Nobody is absolutely perfect. However, once all is said and done, with the way SAM it works, the prototyping can go down as well as up. And so by the very end, the product will be effective. And even within those constraints, it will be perfect. And then lastly, the criterion for SAM is it's manageable. Small, short bursts of something that's manageable, it's something controllable. All right, so a successive approximation overview. Successive approximation was, in fact, the brainchild of Dr. Michael Allen. However, I have to bring in Mr. Richard Seitz on this. Mr. Richard Seitz is the co-author of the text Leaving Addie for Sam. This is yet another work based on the successive approximation model that was published in 2012 by the ASTD, and it is the fundamental piece as far as looking at the model itself. And here is an image of Dr. Allen himself, and of course Mr. Richard Seitz, both working at Allen Interactions. Mr. Seitz is now vice president of that particular organization. And so this right here is the SAM overview, otherwise known as the SAM 2. It gives you a visual breakdown of what SAM looks like. SAM is a 3-phase model. Unlike the Addie model, with SAM, the very first phase is in fact the preparation phase. This is where your background information occurs. There are 2 steps that are involved with the preparation phase. If you've noticed to the far left, it's going to be information gathering, and of course it's that savvy start. Information gathering, you build on that background. That background knowledge could be about a particular school system. It could be about a particular learning function. It could be about course design. It could be about anything in general. And then, of course, you push on to the Savvy Start, and that Savvy Start is an additional brainstorming event. And, of course, you start to move more objectively towards what you're trying to achieve as a result of this particular programming. That second phase is, in fact, the iterative design phase, occurring additionally with 2 steps. That's project planning and additional design. Notice we start to move into design, prototype, and review. You'll notice in another slide that this is in fact yet another model, okay? And that model is in fact what they consider as SAM 1. With project planning, that is where the collaborative nature of the teams get together. They start to identify a timeline. You start to identify budget. You really start to hash out those issues of getting something on paper and starting that basically the design portion prior to moving into the development of a prototype. Okay? And of course, once you get to that iterative development phase, this is now 4 steps. You have design proof, the alpha step, beta step, and the gold step. And notice that once you get to develop, implement, and evaluate, there's an arrow that leads back down towards design, prototype, and review. And so that means that you can go back with that repetition. If you get somewhere and it does not work for you, it can go back down to that middle phase, that iterative design phase. It can go back down the ladder. It can go up the ladder. It can go down the ladder. That is what is so successful about all this. And so you meet those steps through that process, that design proof. It goes to alpha if everything works in alpha and all the figureheads or stakeholders are in agreement with that particular product. At that time, it can move forward to beta. Additional constraints, additional issues are now worked out. Once that proofing has passed beta, it can now go into gold, and for that final product to really roll out. And notice to the far right where it's got rollout. That is the absolute end of the model. So what kind of outcomes are they looking for? Well, when you're looking at building with an iteration, these are those outcomes. Notice to the far upper left, I should say, you've got the prototype. And then, of course, we move to that alpha. And then we move down to the beta. And then, of course, we move down to the gold. You want to go from the prototype to the gold. That is the idea. You want to go from prototype to gold. Notice how that arrow goes through alpha and beta. To get to gold, you've got to go through those series. At any point in time, it does not make the mark in those steps. It can go back to the prototype, go back down to the design phase, and then start back over. Back to the drawing board we go. And as far as references are concerned, Michael Allen's got several books out. Notice that the first 3 are actually mentioned on here. Leaving Addie for Sam, an agile model for developing the best learning experiences, is an absolute influential text. One of those texts was a key piece in this particular project, and I encourage you to seek that particular text out. And a very special thanks to Rich Peterson of Allen Interactions. All images and slides were adopted from Allen Interactions with their permission. Here's a list of web resources. Notice that AllenInteractions.com is at the very top. You can find additional source information on the SAM model, which I encourage you to do so at that particular website. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up our presentation for tonight. I hope you have a great evening, and we'll be talking soon.